Daf Yod Bet Amud Aleph, 38 lines down. V'savar Rabbi Yosef katan idlezech yam midoraita. Does Rabbi Yosef really hold that a katan, a minor boy, can acquire something by himself from the Torah? V'atan Mishnah mitziat hayresh tev katan yesh behem mishum gezel mipnei derek shalom. Mishnah says a hashu, deaf mute, shoteh, the person is majnun, or a katan. If you take away what they find, it's gezel. It's fake gezel. It's a gezel because of peacekeeping. We don't want people to just start stealing stuff that these people find, because then it's no cause effect. However, Rabbi Yosef Gezel Gamor, Rabbi Yosef says no, it's actual gezel. But Amar Rav Chizda Gezel Gamor midivrehen. And Rav Chizda says no, Rabbi Yosef doesn't mean actual gezel. It means gezel midrabanan. So what does that mean? Gezel midrabanan. The difference between Rabbi Yosef and the Tanakh Hama is whether you say it's Darkei Shalom or Gezel. Darkei Shalom just means we want to keep the peace. But according to Rabbi Yosef, the Rabbanan Gezel means that Bet Din can take it out of your hand. But what do we see that is Rabbanan from Rabbi Yosef? We see from there, the fact that he holds this Rabbanan means that it does not belong to him. So we see according to Rabbi Yosef that the Katan does not own anything. When it says, so now how come Rabbi Yosef can hold that a worker's Katan son, right? The poor guy who got hired to help in the field. They said that the katan can walk behind the dad and collect the leket, the pieces from the floor. So how can he do that? Because when the child walks through, picking up the stuff, it makes the field as if the old people walk through. So generally, when I have a person has a field and he has leket people in general, the poor people would come in waves, wave after wave of people coming through. The last wave would be the old people who would walk through with their canes, nice and slow. They're very meticulous, trying to find the last pieces. And they comb through with a thin, nice, fine-toothed comb. Therefore, after those people would pass through, there's a special halakha that they are the nimushot, scavengers, the professional rummagers. And therefore, after they pass through, the other aniyim, the aniyim have yeush about it, right? They see that, those old people passed through already. I give up. There's nothing there. So, and therefore, if there is something there, it belongs to anybody. So therefore, the child who passes through is as if he's those nimushot. So to in our case, people would think, that guy's son's walking through. It's over. There's no more like it. Like when it says, is it possible someone to put a line in his field so that other people will see and run away? What does that mean? Can a person like go out of his way and fully permissible for the guy to bring his son to the field that will make it that no one else can get? That doesn't seem right. And when it says Rava says no, different answer. Really, even though it doesn't work, we make it that it does work. My time away. It's true. Really, it doesn't work because they don't own it. How can we allow it? Because the anim themselves want it. Same way that guy hires his kid. When he gets hired, he'll bring his kid also, and it's a big help. It's a common agreement, an unwritten agreement that allows them to do this. Okay, and it's against Rabbi Yechia. When the Mishnah says that it's not really a gadol in the Mishnah that a gadol can acquire, it's referring to a person not of age. It does not mean he's 13 years old, but rather katan. When it says katan, it doesn't mean an actual katan. Even an adult kid who is still relying on his parents, even his findings goes to his father. And a katan who is not relying on his father goes to his. Even a katan who does not rely. And a katan who does not rely on his father is considered a katan, and it does not go to his father, right? So it all goes on dependency. And therefore, in this scenario, it's referring to people, even a gadol who's can acquire it, but he acquires it for his dad, because we don't want the father to say, I'm feeding you, and you're taking the stuff that you found. That's not fair. Okay. Very interesting part of Mishnah. When I read this Gemara, I was like, it's a beautiful question, if you don't mind me saying myself. It says that the Ayaved, or the Jewish Ayaved, or the Jewish Shivcha, the maid servant, or the slave servant, if they find something, it belongs to them, not the owner. So the Gemara says, "Am I? Why is that so?" The servant should be like a worker. V'tanya, we have a braita. Mitziat po'ela asmo. The worker finds something belongs to him. When does it belong to him? Bisman shamar lo. When he was hired as follows: Nakish imi hayom, cut the weeds for me, or ador imi hayom, or dig today. You hired him for a specific task. Therefore, if he finds something else, it belongs to him. However, Valmar lo, I say imi milachayom, but if he tells him just work for me today without specifying, means the balabait, since he's working for the balabait the whole day, it belongs to him. So therefore, maybe also by the case of the Eved Shebcha should be that he's working for him. He practically all but owns the guy. So also it should belong to the employer. How come it belongs to the Shebcha or the Eved? The Gemara says, so referring to a case where the Eved is not just a regular Eved, he's actually a very, very specific craftsman. He's very, very skilled. And therefore, the master doesn't want him to do anything else. Since the Eved is working on something so expensive, the master does not want him to take off the time to pick up something from the floor. Okay, Rabbi was an answer. Is referring to where the guy found it while he was working, and therefore, since he didn't take off time, therefore it belongs to him. Rabbi is a totally different answer. The case where it belongs to the employer, if he finds something, is referring to the guy hired him to find stuff. So, a pashut answer that you could give is the guy says, "Okay, we're gonna go dig for gold," and he finds gold. Oh, I found it. No, you were hired to do that. So the Gemara gives another answer. Is referring to where the lake overflowed and threw fish into the main onto the land, and therefore whatever he finds is he got hired to find stuff. Therefore, it doesn't belong to him. Okay. What's the case of shivcha, maidservant? Right, it belongs to her. If she has two pubic hairs, that makes her a na'ara. That makes her practically an adult. My baya. Why is she still working for him? The which does not have two hairs. For father's alive, belong to her father. She has no father. Typically, when you take the av, she should go free with her father's death. The Amar Shakish says, and Amar should acquire herself back from her master by her father's death. Because the Kava Homer, that if she gets two Sa'arot, it goes free. So too, for sure, that in case of her father's death, she should go free. That's a kavachomer that Reish Lakish bought. We don't have to go into detail, especially because V'lav Otiv Reish Lakish. The Gemara says we don't hold like Reish Lakish, and therefore the answer is that technically the father's death does not release her. Therefore, the case can be talking about where the father died, and she's still working for this guy, and therefore the Mishnah tells you if she finds something, it does belong to her. The Gemara says, if that's the case, then it should be a question against Reish Lakish. If that's the scenario, it's the direct opposite of what he says. If it belongs to her and she does not go free from the father's death, Gemara says, not a proof. Really, the father can be alive and it still belongs to the father. When does it say that it belongs to them? It's referring to exclude Rabbah. That what? That it doesn't go to the master. So it says it belongs to her, but it doesn't say it belongs to her. It can mean even to her father. But basically, all we're saying is it does not belong to the master. That's what we're coming to teach you. Okay. Mesiyat Ishto, the one who divorced his wife, it belongs to her. So Gemara says, Girshav, she's divorced. Pshita. Of course it doesn't belong to her. It doesn't belong to him. He did not marry anymore. The Gemara says, is referring to, what's the chidush? Beautiful chidush. Ben Megoreshet, Ben Megoreshet. It's talking about a case where she's divorced but not divorced. Yani, Safek. Tamar Rabbi Zira, Amar Shmuel, Kama Kum Shamar Hamim Megoreshet, Ben Megoreshet. Ba'ala Chayam Zutel. Halacha is that if you have a Safek divorce, we'll explain what it is. The husband still chayav to support her with food and parnasa, as if they're married, as a chumrah. What is the case of safek divorce? They passed by in the street, he threw a get. We're not sure if it was close enough to her to be divorced, to be hers, to be considered divorced. Therefore, the case is talking about a case. In a case where she is safek divorced, he's chayav in feeding her. But still, even though that's the case, if she finds something, it doesn't automatically go to the husband, even though he has to feed her, but rather she keeps it. So it's like she gets the best of both worlds. Okay, because why did we say in general that the wife's things that she finds belong to the husband is because the husband shouldn't feel resentment towards her. He should not hate her because I'm feeding you, my wife, and you get to find something and you keep it. No, it should belong to me. Therefore, we say, okay, all those things that the wife's find, give it to the husband. But over here, it doesn't apply. There's plenty of ill will and hatred over here because he tried to divorce her already. Therefore, we say, okay, if you find something that belongs to you. Okay, Mishnah. If the guy found, we touched on this a few of him ago. If someone finds documents of a loan, if there's the whole Mishnah is very surface, superficial, I would say, and we're gonna have to explain everything. So the Mishnah says if there's a lien on karka on property on that paper, the debt, you cannot return it. Because Betin will charge him from that. And if there's no lien on the paper, you can give back the paper to the creditor because they won't collect it. That's according to the mayor. Say both cases, both ways. You should not return it because Bedin will charge the guy. For now, that we have no idea what that means, we'll break it down. What's it talking about over here? Does the guy who owes the money, does he admit or not? Right? What's going on? If the guy denies it, then how can he give it back? So if he admits that he owes the money, why wouldn't you return it if there's a lien? He agrees that he owes the money. So just give it back to the guy who has the money to the creditor. If the guy is not admitting to the debt, if the guy is denying the debt, that he paid it back, for example. So okay, great. Now that the guy can't collect back from the from lien property, but if you already paid back and now you're going to return it back to the creditor, he could collect again. He'll collect from free properties now. So it's still not fair. So what's going on? How are you saying the Mishnah? So the Aulam Kisha Hayab Moder, the guy admits he owed the money. The reason why that it's talking about a liened property, you don't return it, is because the Hashin Shema Katav Velot Benisan Velolava Atishle. For instance, a case where we suspect you have his paper. It says he borrowed the money on September 1st. He has a year to pay the money. If he doesn't pay back the money, they get collected from properties. But what's the problem? We're now finding it, let's say a year later. We're worried maybe they wrote the document on September 1st, but he didn't borrow the money till March 1st. And therefore he's supposed to have another 6 months to pay the money back. And you're enabling the creditor to collect the money and collect the property much earlier. He'll be able to unlawfully acquire the property with not from the purchaser. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, all types of debts, maybe we should always be all debt. Before you allow the guy to pull lien properties, he sold it to Reuven, go to Reuven, pull the lien property. Well, maybe it's not the case. Maybe the guy had more time. It's not fair. Let the guy pay back. Da, da, da. How come we don't always suspect it? How come we only hear we suspect it? The Gemara says, no, there's no reason to suspect. There's no flaws by other documents. In this case, where the guy found it, there's something going on. The fact that it was lost in the first place, there's aspersions, there's suspicions regarding how genuine this is, and therefore we have extra reason to be suspicious. Okay, if someone we may write up a document for a borrower, right? He says, I borrowed money, I lost paper, I want to make a new paper. Tzaddik that I am, I want to make a new paper that I owe Reuven money. Even if the lender is not there, you still write it. Now the Gemara says, you write it. Maybe they'll write it up that he'll borrow the money, that he borrowed the money in but it was Tishrei. And they will take the money without permission. Right? So how come in that case also, seemingly it was lost, that he has to make a new paper. So how come over there we're not choshesh? Different to the case of a document of acquisition. Very complex situation. That is a document that shows that I'm giving you money, I'm giving you permission that you have a lien on my property, and if I don't lend you money, and you have a lien on property, even if I don't lend you money, even if you don't lend me money, and therefore you can even take away my property even without lending me money. Very interesting scenario. This whole Ritva goes into why would someone would do that, but basically the guy is making it's a hakna'an acquisition document that puts a lien on his property even before the loan even happens. In that scenario, we don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with the dates or whether or not when it happened or who it happened, because the guy did it to himself. He already obligated himself to pay the sum, whether or not the loan happened. Right? Very interesting situation. That's the case. But in the Tanya our Mishnah that says, if there's a lien in the property, you should not return it. Now we said we're still in the case where the guy is admitting to it. And the reason why you can't return it is because we're afraid that it was the wrong timing. And therefore, and then we said that the reason why we don't give it back is because we don't want someone to take it back early. The property, if because of the dates, if it was predated. The Gemara says, if that's the case, then how come we don't return it? If it's a case of a note of the acquisition, we just said we don't care about the timing because we said he did it himself. If it's a regular loan document, there's no reason to be suspicious. Because we just say that if the guy is not there, we don't make it by a regular loan. Only time we make this paper without other guys if the guys want to make himself obligated. But over here, in the case of a regular loan document, like we said earlier, where the guy says, "Oh, I won't write me a document that I borrowed money." We don't write that because we're afraid of the timing situation, the timing complexity that can happen. So if we don't write that, and that's the only option we have over here, or we have the option of the case, we don't write that in that situation. And the other option that we have is talking about a case where acquisition where we said, "Sorry, you did it to yourself," then where do we say? How come we don't return the shtar back? Regardless, either way you look at it, give it back. Either the guy did it himself, or it's impossible that the second situation happened because we don't do it. So Gemara says, not necessarily it doesn't happen. Even in the case of regular loan documents, even though we don't usually write it up, in our Mishnah, since it was lost, we are suspecting the worst, and the hashinan dima ikre v'katuv, we are scared and we're suspecting that this is a situation where the guy had it drawn up without permission. Not sure how, who approved of it. Seems like it was done illegally. And therefore, because it's lost and because we already have aspersions, because we already have suspicions on it, in this situation, we suspect it was written about the guy, even though we don't generally do it. And that's why in this case, we say don't give it back because then it might lead to someone taking the properties at the wrong time. Amen.